think I saw this. Young women are becoming dramatically left-wing. Young men are becoming more right-wing. This is happening on every continent. So there's South Korea, U.S., Germany, UK. Yeah.
So I'm curious why, and I'd love to, I mean this like non-sarcastically, I'd love to learn why do you think that trend is? I'm going to ask my young progressive organizer. Why do you think? Because it's something that
I personally don't think it's very valuable to ask people to label themselves politically, mostly because if somebody does that, what I want them to do is like write it down on a piece of paper and then crumple it up and throw it away, and usually just go issue by issue, because I found that when you ask people what they mean by conservative or whatever, like Pixie was saying earlier, sometimes they'll say, oh, like low taxes, small government or whatever, but these are very nebulous terms. But when you actually get into it, maybe they describe themselves as conservative, but more the libertarian type, so they might be pro-choice still. They might actually be interested in like a less interventionist like foreign policy. And then at that point, those are some like liberal tenets to me. So I don't think it's very useful to even try to like have people do that. Or you might even find some liberals that are like anti-union, for example.
So I was gonna say, personally, I think there has been like a big push to like radicalize young men online. You see this with the Tates. You see this in some other forms of media. So I think young men in particular have been very, what is it called, specialized. You got like these giant propaganda centers and networks focusing on trying to radicalize them in a way that they haven't necessarily put the equal focus on women. So I do think that there's been a lot of like online radicalization going on. I also think, like personally, I'm a feminist, but I think there has, like feminism has kind of left men behind and kind of has not given them the answers that a lot of them are necessarily seeking. So then they turn into like these like more what I would call toxic figures instead for guidance. So that's my answer when it comes to like this increased like radicalization.
And then Charlie, I think you kind of maybe already went over it, but I mean, do you have any thoughts on, do you think it's a better idea for people when it comes to relationships or marriage to, I mean, I think I have a sense of what your answer would be, but to marry someone who shares their same political beliefs and values?
Don't try to change your partner. That's a bad idea.
Agree.
Yeah, don't try to change your partner.
Aaron, you said earlier your boyfriend, you said he's not conservative, but he's liberal, and you're much further left. You're leftist. And you said you would, when it comes to perhaps people, you would be friends with someone who's maybe more conservative, so you can shift them more left.
I said that tongue-in-cheek, but
you said that. Well, I was going to ask, have you shifted your boyfriend more left?
I wish.
Okay, so he's pretty firm in his liberalism.
He's firmly planted in his filthy, filthy liberalism, but I love him in spite of that.
I see. Okay, got it.
But we align on a lot of social issues, so if we want to like create a dichotomy of like social and then economic issues, I feel like the economic issues is primarily where we have disagreement, and the social issues, those tend to be, I feel like, the most polarizing and contentious. So if we had more disagreement there, we probably would not be able to be in a relationship together harmoniously. So
okay, I see.
But friends, I'm open to radicalizing them, sure.
Okay, got it. So Charlie, we've got some feminists here. What do you think of feminism?
I want them to define the term first, because there's no use in me giving thoughts on an abstract concept. So I'm all ears.
What's your sense? How do you define feminism?
Feminism is just simply the advocacy of equality, both social, political, economic, on the basis of all genders everywhere. So that's what feminism is to me.
Do you concur?
I concur.
Do you concur?
Concurred.
Okay.
So you want me to give a thought on that?
Do you agree with their definition of feminism?
That would probably be the most agreed upon definition. So I do believe in equality under the law, obviously. I believe in equality for representation or enfranchisement to be able to vote, obviously. But you said economic equality. That's interesting. Do you think that female models and male models should be paid the same by law?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so we should make female actresses and models be paid less because they earn about 20 times more than men.
I think when you get
women would get a pay cut. You're okay with that? I think
when it comes to creative fields like that, it's going to be very difficult to look at it on the basis of like sex or gender, how you would pay somebody, because that's going to have so many more factors than simply that. But if we're talking about equal economic opportunities, like for example, should like a man and woman doing the exact same position at a corporate office be paid the same if they're doing the same amount of work? Then yes.
Depends on what they studied, depends how long they've been there, it depends if they're equally as good at the job, it depends
all else being equal. I'm saying if all of those things are equal, can we at least agree they should be paid the same?
That's already the law. So you're not allowed to discriminate based on gender or sex, based on a law passed in the 1970s.
Right, yeah.
However, what is now being tried to be passed through other movements is to try to swoop in and say, regardless of qualifications, how often you ask for a raise. So I'll ask a question. Why do you think, for example, the average male, it looks as if they earn more than an average woman in a city? Is it because of sexism or other factors?
I think sometimes implicit bias can be one factor among many, but like all the things that you mentioned earlier, different qualifications, different business acumen, skills, work output, numbers of hours work could all be things that impact pay.
Right. So
and like studies that like focus on the gaps between men and women like do make note of these differences.
Okay, Skiz Tech, thank you for the gifted 100 subs. Charlie, do you have a response?
No, I hear that. I do want to actually get back to even more of a fundamental question, and I'm sorry I didn't ask this.
Sure.
What is a woman?
Oh.
A woman is somebody who presents as our social conception of womanhood.
So
acts in such a way.
So Pixie, just can you answer that question without using the word woman or womanhood?
It's because basically it would be a functional definition. So as a society, we have an understanding of what woman is.
What
It's
is
a
that?
man.
Yeah, that's basically.
I am a man.
Well done.
Can
you elaborate?
XY chromosomes.
Okay, but the problem with that is that I didn't check your chromosomes before coming in here and calling you a man, and you didn't check my chromosomes before coming in here.
Or genitals.
Or genitals, calling me a woman.
So let me just play this out. So first of all, you can't give me a definition without using the word woman.
That's a functional definition. Yeah, sure. Do you know what functional definitions
yeah,
are?
I'm very well aware, and you should have a functional definition for the most important question in civilization,
No.
right?
Well, the
Don't
point
know
of a
if it's
functional definition, functional definitions are a definition that is by the function of something. So, like for example,
No, there's an objective
1 =
definition.
1 is like one is a function of 1. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I do. So then, can you give me an objective, a functional, utilitarian, any sort of biological definition of what a woman is? Because
The
how
problem is-
can we debate feminism if we can't agree what a woman is?
I would even like, I feel like Pixie's definition absolutely satisfies the definition of what constitutes womanhood, but I would define it only slightly differently, which is that it's a person who performs a set of social roles that are typically associated with feminine characteristics, but not necessarily, because there are even cis women who fall outside of this, and we still consider them women nonetheless. Like butch lesbians, for example, are women that exhibit very masculine characteristics, but nonetheless society understands them to be women. So
I find cis to be a very offensive word, by the way. I don't know how you feel about the cis.
I don't
women. I think
too
it's hate
deeply about
speech,
that.
to be honest.
I didn't mean to trigger you, Brian. I would have given you a trigger warning before if I had
So
known.
do you think anyone can become a woman?
Yep, but not anyone will.
Okay, so then at what point do they become a woman?
It will depend on where they are in their gender transition for the most part.
Does it require drugs to become a woman?
No.
Yeah, my question was, can men get pregnant?
2 things. I would say if you're a biological male, if we're going to define male through biology or whatever, then no. I do want to push back on some things that I heard earlier.
Well, before you do that, go ahead. Aaron, do you have a answer to the...
I would say yes, because anybody who has a uterus has the capacity to give birth. So, for example, a trans guy who gets pregnant, yes, would be a man who is pregnant. But if you're talking about a man who is assigned a man at birth and does not have a uterus, then no, he doesn't have the ability to get pregnant. You look at me like I'm crazy or what? Do you disagree?
But a lot of women.
So do you
can
want to
get
know why
pregnant.
young men are going away from the left? That's why young men are leaving the left.
Why? They want to get
Why?
Because what you just said is...
Because they're uncomfortable acknowledging reality.
What you
that
just-
some trans men can
what-
get pregnant.
What
It's
you
like,
just said is at war with reality and,
I
massacring...
mean, a lot of women can't get pregnant
basic
either.
vocabulary.
So that doesn't
Yeah,
define
exactly.
It's just a question. It's just a question,